All right, so now I'm going to talk about shapes and their appearance and fills and what are called borders for the next few moments. So this tool here, first I'm going to talk about the selection tool. So when you select an object, you can move it around. When you select, I'm going to talk about the shapes first. You can move this shape around. You can change the scale of this shape. You can rotate the shape and so all different types of things with that shape. And I'll get to some more advanced stuff with shapes in a moment. Um, and that's the selection arrow. If I use the sub-select on shapes, sort of different things happen because these are actual shapes. So a sub-select on that was control and scroll. Sub-select on a rectangle allows me to round the corners. As you can see, I can grab these little red dots and create sort of rounded corners. On a on an oval, if I click the sub-select, you can see that I get this red box, and I can create pie pieces in sort of different sorts of things with the when it's an ellipse. And then I get two, I can sort of do different things with that, with the ellipse. So right now, each of these shapes has what's called a fill. And I'm going to sort of go over here to the appearance. You can see with these shapes, I can change it. One thing I can do with the shape too is I can lower its opacity. I'll talk about that in a moment when I have some more color in here. So when I select these, they are defined by two things. Their fill, which is the color found on the inside of the object. And to change the fill, you click the color next to it. So I'm going to select this. You can see here the color fill. I can also use the ink tool to select a different color, but for now I'm just going to use the fill here. And there's all different ways to choose colors. You can choose colors from here and then choose colors from down here. It doesn't really matter how you do it. We can change this one orange. I can then select up in here, get all different, these are all different hues and tones of oranges. I like the mixer, can be very helpful, or what are called swatches. That's in Pro, sorry. So the mixer can be very helpful. Let's X that out. So it's like, what's nice about the mixer is like you get different shades and tints and tones of that one color that you've chosen. It's helpful later on when you're doing other types of things. Um, the other thing that defines a shape is not just its fill, is its border. And so you'll notice that I collect border, I added a border, and the border here is black, and the thickness of the border is defined by its points, um, by its point line here. So I can click on here and change it to 10, enter, and you can see I have a much thicker border on there. I can also change the color of the border, same way as before, get different borders and so forth. So that's really like that's fills and borders really define shapes when we use the shape tool. As I said before, the ink dropper works this way. You can choose the ink dropper and say, I want that shape to be exact same color as this one. I can actually select this and make that the same color. Or I could make the fill, select this, go to fill, hit the ink dropper, make the fill of that this color, and then add a border to it, and then click this and make its border orange, and then make its border 10, and then these are just kind of opposites of each other. So, and as I said before, the pointer allows you to click and move these things around. And now, one thing you'll notice that I did here, I'm going to delete this shape, you don't need it, is that shapes, everything on the screen kind of is in relationship to each other. It's almost like it's stacked in a certain way. And you'll notice right now that my ellipse, we have a path here. Let's actually delete that path and get rid of it. Now we just have our ellipse and our rectangle. So these shapes are in a certain order, and you'll notice because of the way they're stacked, the ellipse is actually on top of the rectangle. If I want to switch their order, I can drag this down, put the ellipse underneath it, and you can see that kind of changed the shape there. The other way to do it is to select it and then over here in the top, bring forward, bring backwards. So if I want to bring the ellipse forward, I can do that. I'm not going to go too much longer. I want to talk about the pen tool, but these are some things that you can mess around with. I'll leave these on the page for some other design creation in a moment for some other things. All right, so those are shapes, and that's color and fill. Remember, to get the best way to get the color and fill is to use the pointer tool. You can also use the sub-select tool to select an object. excuse me, and do the same thing. All right, next one, we'll talk about lines.